I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, February the 12th, brought to you in part by Farapiece, that revolutionary product that is scientifically proven. I urge you to go to farapiece.com and look at the study that Dr. Rodrigo did on feedlot cattle. He bought some nice yearling cattle there out of the Oklahoma Panhandle. He took them down to Bushland Research, Texas A&M Research feedlot there at Bushland, Texas, which is just west of Amarillo. He had a group that he didn't do anything to, and then the other half he gave Farapiece to. It's well worth it, guys. It's well worth it. You're going to be running them through there anyway, implanting them and re-implanting them. He did 2 doses on those cattle. It was well worth it. Get on there and check out that research that he did and see how much. And it's just a no-brainer, guys. You know, it doesn't bother the cattle, and it calms them down so much. Just to give them some Farapiece there, guys. So go and check out that feedlot research study that he did at farapiece.com. 1 step forward and 2 steps back. That's the opposite of the 2-step, if you don't know that, but that's the dance that the CME cattle futures have been doing ever since January the 30th. Now, it's kind of felt, to some of us, it's felt like it's been a free fall. No, every couple of days we get an up market and pretty decent up market. Then it goes down twice as much as it went up. But we have lost a ton of ground on our live and feeder cattle futures. But live cattle on Tuesday was down twice as much as it was up on Monday. So that erases that and puts us that much more behind. But funds are the managed fund money is liquidating their long position and likely investing in short positions to ride this thing down. Now, we've known this is going to happen. We don't know how much is enough. We don't know how far we're going to fall, but we are definitely in a down market now. And I don't think we may have a chance, you know, at the end of May, 1st of June, to get back up to the levels that we've just seen here, maybe 6 weeks or 2 months ago. But other than that, we're going down, guys. This week, basis jumpers in the Southern Plains have already sold fed cattle $3 lower than last week. So that kind of takes the fun out of it. Not too much to get excited about. The climax is gone from this week's story. Whenever you sell cattle $3 lower on a Tuesday. But we just have to, you know, we see that the Southern Plains is going to lead that. They're going to chase the board lower, and this board is going to drag us down. The cash lifted us up on tight supplies and all the fundamentals, and now the board is going to drag us down. And so we've got feedlot sellers that are chasing the board lower on the live cattle. On our feeder cattle, we're sitting in February, which is a bastard month. So, you know, they can juke and jive that March feeder board as much lower as they want to, and they are doing it. In another 2 to 3 weeks, we could see some support in our feeder cattle futures because we will be getting into March, and then we know that the March feeder cattle will have to converge with your CME cash feeder cattle index at the end of that month. So, but we're still a month and a half away from seeing anything halfway real to do with that feeder cattle futures, and I mean, they could run it to nothing between now and then, but they'll have to bring it back some because there's still excellent demand for feeder cattle. I mean cattle to go into the feedlot, especially cattle to warm up for grass, and they keep buying those heavier and heavier every year, just like our carcass weights continue to get heavier, and we saw that, we've seen the results of that. We've seen a lighter slaughter, but our lighter slaughter has mostly been on cows and bulls. Now this week it's also going to be on fed cattle too, but the heavier carcass weights, the drastically heavier carcass weights that we've seen the last several months, have kicked us into plenty of meat production. But whenever you got big heavy carcasses on the rail, you're also feeding heavier cattle. You're also turning heavier cattle out. I mean, it's nothing for guys to be buying cattle right now weighing well into the 6s, and we're still going to have to hold them and get them warmed up for grass, which grass seems a long ways away whenever the ground's frozen and mostly white and icy in a lot of places. But if they don't get them now, they're not going to be able to get them whenever March and April get here. Our runs are already starting to dry up, and they are really going to be short whenever we start getting closer to spring, guys. But we have started moving some cattle across the Mexican border. Week to date this week, we've moved 1,500 head of Mexican cattle across the border. I told you I figured it would probably heal up once Mexico stopped being quite so picky about what kind of corn that they imported. And indeed, that seems to be the case. There's been more cattle actually cross in Douglas, Arizona than there has been at Santa Teresa. And normally Santa Teresa is your biggest crosser there, but the inspectors have been really picky there, and maybe not quite so much in Douglas, Arizona, as they've crossed more cattle than Santa Teresa already this week. But I want to tell you about a sale you want to be thinking about, guys. Larson's Lost River Livestock Production Sale is coming up later this month, February the 22nd at 2:00 p.m. It's going to be in Clearbrook, Minnesota. I'm actually going to be in Minnesota this weekend with Schiefelbein sale, and going to be also giving a presentation the night before, and you guys might want to think about that. But the next week, the next Saturday on February the 22nd, and that is a big production sale day, guys. I think we've got 28 sales that Saturday on DV Auction alone. But I think you need to look at that Larson's Lost River sale. They're selling over 70 bulls, or right at 70 bulls. They've got over 40 years of experience doing this, or been doing it that long. They're selling yearling and long yearling bulls, and got some variety in there. Got Gelbvieh, Balancer, Red Angus, and Simmental bulls. I urge you to go on to DVAuction.com. Get on the production cattle sales, go down to February the 22nd and find Larson's Lost River sales, and get on there and look at the videos of the cattle that they're going to be selling there on February the 22nd at 2 p.m. They've also got 45 head of registered and commercial bred heifers. So check out that sale, going to be on DV Auction on February the 22nd. Let's talk about your board on Tuesday. February live cattle futures down 220 at 199.67. Have we lost $2 for good? I don't know. April live cattle down 212 at 196 smooth. Remember when April was always your highest traded month on live cattle? But your back months on live cattle down 92 cents to down 182. Feeder cattle for March down 335 at 264.77. April down 280 at 264.97. Your back months were all down 257 to 297. Not sure how much the bird flu scare that I talked about on the last Feeder Flash episode is responsible for the losses on the CME cattle futures, but you know they could say anything. They're just drawing at straws whenever they blame it on something, because funds are liquidating, and we have no choice in the matter. It's going to go down. Your grains, March corn down 7.5 cents a bushel at 4.84. Beans down 6 cents a bushel at 10.43.5. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March down 4 cents a bushel at 5.92 3/4. Your fat cattle trade, they haven't traded anything much at all in the northern plains. Of course, they've got all the leverage. They're going to wait until later in the week, and they're probably bullish enough. They're going to ask more for cattle. Guarantee you they will. They don't care what goes on in the southern plains. Just as soon they didn't group them together. because they've got the leverage. They've been selling a lot of cattle negotiated. They know that the packers need those good cattle, those good northern cattle, and they'll likely ask more for those cattle this week and try to get more for them, even though the Southern Plains has already given up. Kansas sold 1,250 head. That's significant in Kansas. That's notched the market. We're set. They sold them at 203, $3 lower on a Tuesday. That is basis jumping, guys. The February live cattle are under $2. They sold the cattle at 203. There's $3 that will help them reach a break even, but likely those cattle are about washing out. Texas sold 1,050 head at 203. So anyway, there goes all the drama in your fed cattle arena. But we'll have to wait and see what the Northern Plains does. They'll flex their muscle and make those packers dig in to get their cattle. They won't puke them early in the week. But at your fat cattle auction, your market setter, guys, Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. They had 1,100 head in overnight, 1,400 head for their fat cattle auction on Tuesday. Gary Marks gives us the market report from there because we have a hard time finding it in any other way. But conventional fed cattle in Yankton, South Dakota sell from 196 to 215 and a quarter. Okay? And that is unevenly steady, a little higher on the top side, maybe a little cheaper on the bottom side, but unevenly steady there for the market in the brick and mortar fat cattle auction, the best one we have in this United States here. Your program cattle, non-implanted or drug-free, selling from 210 to 215.50. Also unevenly steady, but good market there in Yankton, South Dakota. Congratulations there to Greg Ryken and the whole gang there. Box beef cutout values were lower on Tuesday. Choice cuts down 104 at 322.46. Selects down 171 at 312.21. Your slaughter, remember I talked on our last visit how disappointing our slaughter was to start out the week on Monday. Well, it was more normal on Tuesday, but we're still behind. Through the first 2 days of the week, 217,000 estimated cattle slaughter this week compared to the same point last week. We're down 20,000 to the same week a year ago. We're down 22,000. Talk about what else is going on. Performance Livestock Analytics. Performance Livestock Analytics is a livestock technology company, and their performance beef software can help simplify your cattle feeding, cattle growing operation, guys. Their team is only a phone call away, and they're right there with them. If you're subscribing to their services, they are there to help you guys. Check them out at performancelivestockanalytics.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. We got a new sponsor for that, sponsored by Specialty Risk Insurance, working to protect your livelihood. Look at your real-time index late in the day on Tuesday after your sales had all closed, sitting at 276.17, down 29 cents compared to the end of Monday's trade. Now, your latest CME cash feeder cattle index is at 275.85, very close there. Your big sales were lighter this week, early in the week, because of that storm moving across the lower Midwest there, guys. Ozarks Regional Stockyard only had 700 head because of the weather there and uncertainty about everything that comes with the weather. They had another 261 head that sold on their in-house video sale, but the prices were kind of erratic and didn't have really enough there to make loads, so just kind of a tough go of it whenever the weather curbs your receipts that much. Now, Beaver County Stockyards, I told you on the last feeder flash that their receipts were curbed due to the weather too, but still had 3,000 head for their Tuesday feeder cattle auction. The feeder steers weighing over 8.5 were steady to $5 higher. Those weighing under 8.5 were steady to $5 lower. Steer calves were lightly tested that did have a higher undertone. Feeder heifers run evenly steady. Heifer calves weak to $3 lower. Now your National Beef Wire stick-out sale of the day was Kingsville Livestock Auction in Kingsville, Missouri. That's just south and east a little ways from Kansas City. One of my favorite sale barns there. The Anstein family runs that. They had 4,300 head of feeders run through there. Didn't have the market report. They were still selling cows whenever I published this report really late on Tuesday there. But market was uneven as I could see through the automated market report through Cattle Market Central. But really impressive on some of these calf prices, guys. Check out your best tested weights. 449 head of 5-weight steer calves average 546 pounds with a weighted average price of $349.94. That weighted average price was like $7 higher than last week. 595 head of 6-weight steers averaged 644 at $313.67, about $3 higher. 350 head of 8-weight steers averaged 824 at $267.19, and that was about steady with a week ago. Your heifers, 348 head of 4-weight heifer calves averaged 460, weighted average price $329.16, and that was a lot lower than last week. 369 head of 5-weight heifers averaged 540 at $309.36, which was about steady. 659 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 656 at $282.99, about $3 higher, and 441 head of 7-weight heifers averaged 724 pounds at $264.77, about $3 lower. Most impressive quote that I saw come out of Kingsville was 94 head of stocker steers weighed 632, bring $347.50, professionally purchased and likely headed out to the Flint Hills to be in a holding pattern, and still it's time to turn those out on grass this summer. How about Atkinson Livestock Market in Atkinson, Nebraska? That's up there on the Yellow Brick Road. They had 83 steers weighed 625, bring 360. That's about as high as we had on those weights of steers all through this rally. How about Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota? They sell 64 big steers weighed 947 at 266 and a quarter. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Gordon, Nebraska, at our friends at Gordon Livestock Market. They sell 157 fancy steer calves. They weighed 505 and bring $4 smooth. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.